Imagine Washington, D.C., August. Just thick, merciless heat, the kind where the air feels heavy.
Yeah, oppressive. Makes everything feel slower, heavier.
Right. And on August 15th, amidst all that, something truly dark happens. A young woman, Carla Johnson, a drama student, 23 years old, she's found dead.
And it's immediately strange. No robbery, nothing taken.
Nothing. But she was strangled. And the weapon, well, it's not something you'd ever expect. A piece of religious clothing.
A priest's amice, specifically. That liturgical scarf. And then there was the note, pinned right there.
It's chilling, just perfectly lettered. Her sins are forgiven her.
That combination really sets the stage for this deep dive. The sacred turned into a murder weapon, plus this message of absolution. It's deeply unsettling.
So our mission today is to really get into the forensic side of this serial killer investigation. They called him the priest.
Yeah, and we want to explore how the clinical profile, the psychological side, collided with the actual police work, sort of the boots on the ground versus the mind hunter aspect.
We're looking at Detective Ben Paris, representing law enforcement, and Dr. Tess Court, the forensic psychiatrist. Two experts, two worlds.
And trying to understand not just how he killed, but the why.
Right.
What was driving this twisted mission of salvation.
Okay, let's unpack the pattern then, because Carla Johnson, tragically, she was just the first.
Right. Soon after, Barbara Clayton, then Francie Bowers.
And the similarities are stark. All young women, 23 to 27, all blonde, similar build, small to medium.
And critically, as you said, no robbery, but also no signs of sexual assault. That's huge. It throws out the most common motives right away.
So it's not about passion in the usual sense, not about greed. What's left?
What's left is the signature, the ritual. That becomes everything. You have to decode that to figure out the motive.
And the signature was incredibly consistent. The weapon, always the amice.
Always. That specific white linen vestment, sometimes it has gold edging. Traditionally, it symbolizes, purity, protection against evil.
The irony is just staggering, using that to strangle someone.
And then how he left the bodies. Neat as a pin. Sometimes the amice was even folded across the chest. He's trying to impose order, almost like arranging a sacred space after the act.
And then the final touches, making the sign of the cross over them, leaving that identical note. It feels like a ceremony.
Exactly. He's not just killing, he's performing a rite. He genuinely believes he's providing absolution.
Which must have been incredibly difficult for the investigators to wrap their heads around initially.
Well, yeah. And Dr. Court picked up on this early. She noted this meticulousness, this control. It suggested he wasn't some random attacker exploding in rage.
He planned things.
Very carefully. Orderly, even logical in his own disturbed way. Avoiding leaving obvious forensic traces, like skin under the nails, things like that. He saw himself as an instrument, performing a necessary function.
And this is where the clash really comes in, right? Between Detective Paris and Dr. Court.
Oh, absolutely. Ben Paris is described as, well, pretty cynical, focused on hard facts. He apparently said, I don't like terms. He just wanted the tidy psychotic, as he put it, in a cage.
He sounds very dismissive of the whole psychological profiling approach.
Deeply skeptical. He wanted evidence, fingerprints, witnesses, the sword of justice, not the words of psychology.
So Tess Court walks into this atmosphere, and she's trying to explain the why.
And she has to push back against that skepticism. She corrects him. He's not just tidy, she argues. He's reverent. And she makes that key point. Insanity is a legal term. She believed he was ill, desperately ill.
Trying to save them, she thought, not just punish.
Yes, that was her hypothesis. Saving them from something likely connected to a sexual sin he was obsessed with.
But Paris's resistance, it sounds like it went deeper than just professional skepticism. There was something personal there.
There was a really painful backstory involving his brother, Josh.
Oh.
Josh had severe mental health struggles. The psychiatric care he received apparently didn't help, maybe even made things worse in Ben's eyes.
Okay.
But the breaking point, the thing that really scarred Ben, was after Josh died by suicide. A young priest refused to grant Josh absolution, called suicide a mortal sin. Basically told the family he was damned.
Wow. Okay, that explains a lot about his reaction to Tess and her ideas about salvation and sin.
Exactly. It wasn't just professional disagreement. It was a deep personal wound related to faith, forgiveness, and the perceived failures of both psychiatry and the church. He saw authority figures offering words, but failing his brother. So he trusted only concrete justice.
He didn't want words easing hearts because his brother's heart wasn't eased. He wanted retribution.
Precisely. Which is why Tess's insights, while initially dismissed by him, were so crucial for the investigation overall. She pushed them to look beyond the obvious.
And her focus on the religious aspect, the reverence, that led somewhere specific.
It did. It brought in Monsignor Timothy Logan, a priest, but also trained in psychiatry. Sort of bridge between those two worlds.
And he provided a key piece.
The breakthrough. He looked at the dates. Tess and the team were focused on where, but Logan asked when.
The church calendar.
Bingo. Carla Johnson, the first victim, August 15th. That's the Feast of the Assumption. Mary ascending to heaven. Peak symbol of female purity.
Okay. Wow.
The second murder. The date coincided with the celebration of Mary's birth.
That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern, a symbolic one.
Absolutely. It confirms the killer wasn't just religious. He was acting out a script tied to these major Marian feast days. He's making sacrifices linked to purity.
So what did that immediately suggest to Tess about his deeper motive? Why Mary?
It strongly suggested he was trying to atone for, or perhaps save, a specific lost female figure in his own life. Someone he associated with impurity or sin, someone he felt he failed.
The victims were stand-ins.
Symbolic sacrifices, which led them to investigate his personal life, looking for this figure. And they found her. Laura.
Laura. And who was she to him?
We learn more about his private rituals, lighting candles, 4 of them, 1 for each victim he saved, and a 4th for Laura, the one he couldn't save.
So Laura is the key. What happened to her?
Laura was his twin sister, and she died following a backstreet abortion.
Ah, there it is, the mortal sin.
Exactly. In his mind, likely shaped by a very rigid interpretation of doctrine, the abortion, the preceding sexual activity, it damned her. It made her lost.
And he couldn't accept that.
No. So he created this mission. Sacrificing other women he saw as similarly lost to somehow pay for Laura's sin, to achieve her salvation through his actions. It's a horribly distorted kind of restitution.
Just a completely warped sense of spiritual duty. And as Tess gets closer to understanding this, she becomes a target herself, right?
Yes. Her profile gets leaked to the press. Suddenly, she's not just the psychiatrist analyzing him. She fits the physical type, blonde, relatively young. But more importantly, she's the one who understands his mission.
That makes her dangerous to him. Or symbolic.
Both, probably. He sees her as potentially the last one needed to complete his sacred task. Maybe absolving the one who understands him is the final necessary act.
And then he starts calling her.
Yeah, the pressure is clearly getting to him. He's falling apart on the phone calls. But Tess, using her training, she doesn't just panic.
She keeps talking.
Keeps him calm, keeps him on the line, buys time, gathers intel. She's noting down things he says, like this panic quote from the book of Job. She's essentially profiling him in real time.
So her words are now directly feeding the police operation, Ben's sword.
Absolutely. They have surveillance on her apartment, her office. The calls help them zero in. Because they suspected, well, they had to consider he might be close.
And the reveal is, it's shocking.
It's one of their own. Detective Roderick, he was on the task force, watching Tess, vetting the evidence against himself, hiding in plain sight.
The ultimate insider threat, the level of calculation.
It speaks volumes about his psychology, doesn't it? Needing to be part of the investigation, maybe to control it, maybe just to watch.
And the climax, when they finally confront him.
Roderick is fully in character, wearing a clerical collar. He tries to absolve Tess, sees her as the final step.
But Ben and the team get there.
They intervene. It's dramatic. But even then, right after he is subdued, his first instinct reveals everything.
What does he do?
He seeks out Monsignor Logan, the priest psychiatrist, and his first words are that ancient formula, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned."
Oh, wow. After everything.
Followed by, "I'm so tired." Just utterly spent. The mission was complete, but there was no peace in it for him.
So, looking back at the whole case, what's the big takeaway here? The knowledge nugget, as we say.
I think it's that neither approach was enough on its own. Paris's hard-nosed police work, the sword, couldn't find him without the why. And Tess's psychological insights, the words, needed the police structure to act on them.
Her profile wasn't just describing him, it helped predict and locate him, especially with that calendar insight.
Exactly. Understanding his motivation, the obsession with Laura, the religious dates, that's what ultimately led them to look closer, even within their own ranks.
And there's that human element, too, the change in Ben Paris. He eventually opened up to Tess about Josh.
He did. Shared that whole painful story. The suicide, the priest, his loss of faith. It seems like working with Tess, seeing her perspective, maybe cracked open something he kept locked away, created a connection.
It's fascinating, that connection, because when you step back, both Ben Paris, the detective, and Roderick, the killer, They were both profoundly shaped by the same thing.
Yeah, that unforgiving doctrine of mortal sin. Ben reacted against it, seeking justice after it condemned his brother. Roderick internalized it, became consumed by Laura's perceived damnation, and twisted it into this murderous mission.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. We saw justice served, in a way. The killer was caught. But the root cause, that trauma linked to sin and absolution, it lingers.
You have these two central figures, the pursuer and the pursued, both haunted by the same rigid religious idea.
If we think about justice not just as punishment, but as understanding that line between guilt and responsibility, what does it say when both the detective fighting for justice and the killer enacting his perverted version of it were, in a way, products of the same source of pain?
Something to definitely mull over. How much do these deep-seated beliefs, especially about judgment and forgiveness, fuel the actions of people on both sides of the law?